Hello and welcome again to my YouTube channel, Chicago Weather Talk, part of my website, chicagoweathertalk.com. And you ever get the feeling that somebody's watching you? Well, we're going to take a look at the weather pattern going on today across northern Illinois, northwest Indiana, and the threat for some severe weather that could kind of spoil this warm-up we're seeing. We'll get several hours to enjoy it, pretty much rain-free, but late this afternoon towards this evening, could see a few strong storms fire up. So I'm going to go back to my website here, again, chicagoweathertalk.com, where I blog just about daily about weather patterns across the area, but try to dive a little bit deeper into deeper discussion that you can't get elsewhere. And today, the focus is on the threat of severe weather. Will storms spoil the warmest day of the year so far? As a matter of fact, this could be the warmest day we've seen since October, early October, in over 6 months with highs in the 70s. So that's what I look at today. And first of all, I need to point out that the Storm Prediction Center has placed us either in the marginal risk area for severe weather, that's the area here shaded in kind of this green, this darker green here, or the slight risk area across our far southern suburbs in northern Indiana. More on what those risk areas mean, but before I get to that, I need to preface this by saying I'm recording this around lunchtime today, so this might be dated. You need to be aware of what's going on, especially late this afternoon, this evening. Make sure you have a couple of redundant sources for your severe weather alerts and keep your eye to the sky and pay attention, especially late today. But that being said, let's dive into this a little bit. According to the Storm Prediction Center, when you're talking about a marginal risk for severe weather, you're talking about maybe a couple of isolated severe storms, short duration, won't cover a large area. You go up a notch, you kind of ratchet it up a notch when you get to the slight risk category. There's 5 risk categories, so we're in the lowest 2 for today. But northern Indiana has a slight risk, which means there could be some scattered severe storms possible. And some of these storms today could kick up some, even a few tornadoes could spin up. That's not the biggest threat. The biggest threat is probably some large hail and some damaging winds. Winds are getting up to around 60 miles per hour or stronger. So that's what we're kind of concerned about today. And one of the reasons why we have the setup for severe weather is something called wind shear. And I've talked about this before. Wind shear is the change in either wind speed or direction or both with height. So here's a couple of examples. This is directional wind shear as the wind changes direction with height, which we're going to see today. We're going to see some southerly winds pushing those highs into the 70s, but up aloft as a cold front comes through, the wind shifting more to the west. So we've got some wind shear going on here. We also have some wind shear in terms of speed. The winds will be fairly strong at the surface, but a pretty good jet stream overhead will pack an even bigger punch. So we're going to see both directional and speed wind shear today. So those a couple of the ingredients that we need for some severe weather. Also, the atmosphere is rather unstable. With these 70s around, we're going to build up a little bit of energy as we get into the atmosphere, a little bit of sunshine breaking through. I'm seeing that again around lunchtime today. So those are a couple of the ingredients that could come together. Now, the thing that could kind of spoil this threat of severe storms, which would be great, is that we have a cap in the atmosphere, which is a kind of a layer of warmer air that tends to stabilize things. So we need to break that cap. We need to see the air vertically rising enough to get through that. And once that happens, we could release a lot of energy that could feed these thunderstorms potentially. Not the ideal setup for severe weather today. That's why we're in the lower 2 categories. But if that cap should bust, and that's what storm chasers always talk about, are we going to break through that layer, that stable layer aloft? Will we get those strong storms to fire up? And that could happen again late this afternoon towards this evening. The biggest threat again is going to be some damaging winds, maybe some large hail, but even a few tornadoes could spin up. And then after this, we've got a cold front coming through, actually during the evening, which could kind of break down that cap as it brings some cooler air aloft. As you see the temperatures cool with height, that's when the atmosphere gets unstable. So that could result in initiating some thunderstorms at cold front. But behind that front, we've got cooler air coming. As a matter of fact, late this week, towards this weekend, some of the miles even hinting at a couple of spits of snow. I don't think that's going to happen. It could be too warm for that, but just to give you an idea, quite a bit cooler. So 70s for us today, earliest or warmest day we've seen since October, but the threat of severe storms lurks late this afternoon towards this evening. So thank you again for joining me on Chicago Weather Talk.